Farm Week is a production of the Mississippi State University Extension Service.
Today on Farm Week, the USDA confirms a California cow is the 4th case of BSE in the United States.
Fruit and vegetable growers in northeast Mississippi are working together, and it's growing their businesses.
In southern gardening, the delphinium. This flower is a special treat in the spring garden.
In the market, soybean prices climb due to growing demand, while catfish processing remains down, holding prices up.
In the feature segment, Will Gilmer is a Northwest Alabama dairyman. While his tractors and farm machinery are important to his work, he makes sure his smartphone is handy. He uses it liberally to let the public know what it takes to farm. He has more than 2,700 Twitter followers.
I don't think there's any dairy farms in downtown Manhattan or in Chicago or Los Angeles, so somebody has to let them know where their milk's coming from, and it might as well be us.
Good day, everyone. I'm Leighton Spann.
And I'm Artis Ford. Welcome to Farm Week.
The U.S. beef industry and the federal government are responding to the nation's 4th ever case of BSE.
Leighton, the U.S. Department of Agriculture made the announcement on Tuesday. It, of course, affected the markets, and you'll have more on that in the market segment. BSE is short for bovine spongiform encephalopathy. The common term is mad cow disease. The cow in question is a dairy cow discovered at a California rendering plant. The USDA said that the cow had already been withheld from slaughter, so it was not a risk to the food supply. BSE is not transmitted through milk. The cow did test for an atypical form of the disease, not usually associated with eating contaminated feed. The Food and Drug Administration continues to ban feeding cattle byproducts back to cattle, as it has for 15 years. The USDA says that safeguards have lowered the number of worldwide BSE cases to 29 last year. That's down from the world peak of 37,000 in 1992. Now, this week's California discovery is only the 4th BSE cow to be found in the U.S. The first BSE cow was discovered in the U.S. in December 2003. It came originally from Canada. The second was found in Texas in 2005. The third was in Alabama in 2006. The National Cattlemen's Beef Association reminds consumers that the USDA tests 40,000 cattle a year for high-risk diseases. More than 1 million have been tested since the program began. Now, Leighton, it's important to note that the first BSE case in the U.S. in 2003 was a so-called typical case, probably caused by contaminated feed that it had eaten as it grew up in Canada. Well, the USDA says that the last 3 U.S. cases have been this atypical form, and it's not known whether it can be transmitted to humans. It may be that it's just a random mutation that can occur when you just have a large group of animals. And in humans, of course, we can't always explain why one person will contract the disease while someone else will. And of course, we'll be following up on this in the coming weeks.
For sure. Thanks, Artis. Most of Mississippi's commercial fruit and vegetable production is located in the southern counties. However, more and more growers are being added in the northern counties as well. One reason is the creation in 2011 of the Northeast Mississippi Fruit and Vegetable Producers Association. The brainchild of 2 Extension Service agents, the association is now 1 year old and has received statewide recognition because of how it is answering growers' needs. Prospect Produce, south of Houston, Mississippi, started out as a 3-acre farm in 2009. Now, 3 years later, it has grown to 25 acres of fruits and vegetables.
Scott Cagle, extension agent, he's been a big help on especially our peach trees.
James Ernest and his business partner Doyle Moore credit part of their success to Chickasaw Extension Director Scott Cagle and the Producers Association that he helped organize.
And we had our first meeting last February and formed the North Mississippi Fruit and Vegetable Growers Association. And we had producers from Tennessee and Arkansas join us at that training, and it was a huge success. We brought producers out of the woodwork nobody knew about.
Cagle and area horticulture agent Jeff Wilson say the association now has well over 100 members like Ernest and more. The two producers gave Extension Service Director Gary Jackson and Associate Director Joe Street a tour of their operation at the end of the 2011 growing season. James Ernest says they were proudest of their 2011 blackberry crop, produced by 1,800 plants that were put out in March 2010. He showed the vines to Extension Director Jackson and talked about the big harvest in 2011.
Some of our girls that were picking, they picked close to 50 gallons a day off of some of the rows, and they got tired.
Meanwhile, south of Okolona, Mississippi, on alternate 45, this fruit stand marks the farm of another member of the new association, Jay Schmidt.
The main thrust for that association has been education. Try to develop the markets. Try to bring the farmers, put the education that they need to be more profitable and economically viable.
Schmidt told visiting administrators he had always valued the help of the Extension Service. The row crop and catfish producer followed Extension's recommendations for the pecan orchard he planted alongside U.S. Alternate 45 in Chickasaw County in 2008. And before diversifying into fresh produce and opening this roadside fruit stand, Schmidt had Extension conduct a feasibility study which encouraged him to proceed. That's the kind of help producers have direct access to through the new association.
With the education programs that are available, putting the specialists out in the field, putting the specialists available to the farmer, and that contact has been invaluable to the farmers, bringing them to the point where they can be more profitable.
The work of Scott Cagle and Jeff Wilson to better serve the needs of the expanding fruit and vegetable industry in Northeast Mississippi was recognized with a Customer Outreach Award at the Extension Annual Conference. From Chickasaw County, Mississippi, I'm Leighton Spann reporting.
And you can get in touch with your county extension service office if you're interested in the association. Well, are you interested in growing a special spring garden plant? In this week's Southern Gardening segment, Extension horticulturist Dr. Gary Bachman shows us why the delphinium is one of those true spring garden treats.
One of the treats of the spring garden are delphinium. Today I'm at the home of my friends Lisa and Marty, enjoying the beautiful delphinium and other flowers of their spring garden. Delphiniums have long and colorful flower spikes. The name delphinium is derived from the Greek delphis, meaning dolphin, which developing seed heads resemble. Flower colors can range from white to pale blue to dark blue. See how nice they look when planted in combination with these vertical flower stalks of sonnet snapdragon. The foliage is also attractive. The large leaves have stems and are palm-like with 5 to 7 toothed lobes. These are clustered towards the base, with some that branch off the flower stem. Delphiniums need to be grown in the full sun for best flowering. Plant in a well-drained soil amended with composted materials. Delphiniums need to be planted in the period from November to early February. This is a time well before flowering, but it allows the root system to grow to be able to support the flowering show. Because of the height of the flowering stem, staking is required. Delphinium requires a little extra feeding to flower optimally. Use extra compost or organic fertilizers sprinkled around the base of the plants in the spring. Be aware though, excessive nitrogen can actually decrease the life of the flowers. Delphinium should be considered a short-lived perennial due to the heat and humidity we have in Mississippi, but don't let that stop you from enjoying these plants in your garden. I'm Gary Bachman for Southern Gardening.
Gary says that delphiniums are native to the northern hemisphere and the high mountain regions of Africa. In the feature segment today, dairy farming is one of the busiest forms of farming, so why is Northwest Alabama dairyman Will Gilmer on his smartphone? Gilmer says his social media work helps to get agriculture's message out to consumers. Time now for the markets with Leighton. And Leighton, the BSE case, obviously a big shock to the beef sector.
Definitely, and we'll be discussing the longer-term implications of that with our Extension Ag economist here in a moment. Also ahead this week, U.S. catfish processing remains down. Soybean futures hit a 3.5-year high on Tuesday, while a sell-off that same day turns the corn market flat. A sharp price drop in cattle futures was the initial reaction early in the week to that new case of mad cow disease in California. Extension Ag economist Dr. John Michael Riley joined me in studio Wednesday afternoon to discuss that development as well as the April 20th cattle on feed numbers. John Michael, we're recording this early Wednesday afternoon. Where are the markets right now post this initial BSE news?
Well, they have rebounded a bit today compared to closing. All 2012 contracts closed limit down yesterday. 2013 contracts were closed a little worse than $2 a hundredweight, which limits $3 a hundredweight. They've rebounded a bit today. I think I wouldn't call it an overreaction yesterday. Anytime you see a headline like a BSE, that does create some concern, especially where our markets are at today. But they have come up. It appears that the trade implications might not be as disastrous as previous BSE cases. The thing to keep in mind is that we are very reliant on our exports in today's cattle industry versus when the most recent case in 2006 for U.S. cattle. At that point in time, our exports were roughly 60%, or they were 60% less than what they are today. In fact, 2011 exports were better than the pre-2003 when the first case came up in the U.S. So these export markets are important. I think the market reacted that way because of the potential implications. It appears that those implications might not be as dramatic as maybe expected yesterday.
So basically we are just going to have to sit and monitor this and see how it unfolds in the weeks and days ahead.
This story isn't over yet, so more could continue to progress as we move forward.
All right, let's back up to April 20th, the most recent cattle on feed report, which basically showed more cattle in the feedlots around the country, right?
More cattle, 2% above where we were at a year ago, a little less than 11.5 million head of cattle in feedlots. That was mostly expected. In fact, it was the average of the expectations was exactly 2% as well. Placements were lower, which is no surprise. Just given the big push of cattle going into feedlots the past couple of months, they were down a little more than 6%, but the market expected it to be around a little more than 7%. So that might have been bearish, but we had more marketings. It all evened out, and that's why we got the on-target cattle on feed number.
We shift from cattle to the pond bank, where U.S. catfish prices were down a little from February to March, but still above year-ago levels. These numbers from the USDA were released April 20th and are for the month of March. The average pond bank price paid to U.S. producers was $1.20 per pound. That is down 2 cents per pound from February, but still 12 cents above 1 year ago. Farm sales, meanwhile, totaled over 27 million pounds round weight, a decrease of 9% from March of 11. Processor sales were nearing 15 million pounds, down 18% from March 1 year ago. Our trivia quiz will transition us into the row crop side of the markets, and here is this week's question. Where does Mississippi rank nationally in soybean meal consumption? Keep in mind the amount of poultry and livestock being fed in the state as you consider your answer. Is it number 8, number 12, number 25, or number 39? I'll tell you here in less than 5 minutes.
We're going to pause for a short break on Farm Week. Coming up, we'll look at the calendar of the second part of the markets. Leighton Spann reports on prices for soybeans, corn, and cotton. In the feature segment today, Northwest Alabama dairyman Will Gilmore works hard to inform the public about what it takes to farm. The Mississippi State University graduate has a Twitter account with more than 2,700 followers.
At Mississippi State University, Extension is reaching beyond the college campus and impacting adult education. We're instructing agricultural professionals on the latest trends in research and technology, inspiring communities, empowering small businesses, and promoting the growth of healthy families where youth and adults can reach their fullest potential.
The MSU Extension Service, sharing our vision for the future.
Now, before we get back to the markets, let's look at the Farm Week calendar. The Mississippi Department of Agriculture and Commerce and Mississippi State University Extension Service are sponsoring a workshop for managers of farmers markets. It will be held Thursday, May 10th. It takes place in the Sparkman Auditorium at the Mississippi Ag and Forestry Museum on Lakeland Drive in Jackson. Hours are 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. Registration is $15. Participants will learn how to promote farmers markets with various methods, including so-called social media. Complying with health regulations will be covered as well. You need to pre-register by May 5th. A Mississippi Longleaf Pine Landowners Field Day will be held on Thursday the 10th as well. It will take place at the Jack Welburn property on Fire Tower Road at Silver Creek. That's in Lawrence County. Program starts at 9 a.m. It costs $5 and lunch is included. Go to our Farm Week website at farmweek.msucares.com for information on these and other events. Now check out this week's Farm Week Snapshot.
A declining South American crop and growing Chinese demand prompted price gains for soybeans this week. In fact, a 3.5-year high in bean futures was recorded Tuesday, according to Dow Jones Newswires. Analyst Darren Newsom says that he's not surprised and even expects the trend to continue.
It does seem to indicate there's a lot of money moving over into soybeans right now. Should probably keep pushing it higher again. Its seasonality usually goes, seasonal rally usually goes up into early July. So we've still got some time, and we've still got a lot of fuel to burn up in the soybean market.
As for the outlook for corn, buying in this sector of the markets has been less enthusiastic as we record Wednesday afternoon. Analyst Tom Fitzenmeyer says there's probably enough supply to get us by until harvest, but there are some situations he does expect to see this summer.
We certainly could see some extra downtime on ethanol producers this summer. You can see some substitution of wheat for corn this summer. You're going to see the fact that the new crop's getting planted so quickly, so far advanced, that corn's going to be available sooner. So adjustments are going to be made here, and I know everybody thinks we have to go higher because it's hard to buy corn, and that's certainly true. It's not necessarily because we don't have the corn. It's also partially because farmers are flush with cash and don't have a lot of reason to sell corn. So I think you get cash corn up in that 650 area, 655, 660, somewhere up in that range.
Tom Fitzenmeyer says the upside in corn past that point will be limited. Well, we wrap it up now in cotton. There's news out of China that country is reducing its import tax. That, of course, would be very favorable for U.S. cotton exports, and it should help limit the downside price moves. Also favorable for the cotton market itself is the new planting forecast out of China this week. Dones reports that China's cotton plantings will be down over 9%. Now, that's not down as much as previous forecasts had called for, but still positive for the cotton market. Just before our feature story, here's the answer to that trivia quiz. Mississippi ranks 8th in the nation in soybean meal consumption. So A is the correct choice. U.S. Agriculture Secretary Tom Vilsack says producers need to work to get the message out that farming is important. A dairy farmer near the Mississippi-Alabama state line has been doing just that long before the President administration even came into office. Will Gilmer is using all forms of social media to bridge the gap between agriculture and the rest of the world. Some might call Gilmer an early adopter, but the Mississippi State graduate sees his communication work as part of the responsibility he has as a farmer.
I don't think there's any dairy farms in downtown Manhattan or in Chicago or Los Angeles, so somebody has to let them know where their milk's coming from, and it might as well be us.
When it comes to using social media to tell agriculture's story, few people do it any better than Mississippi State alumnus and third-generation dairy farmer Will Gilmer. Using his smartphone, Gilmer may post over a half-dozen messages a day on Twitter. All the cows have been milked and fed for the morning, he wrote on July 6th. After breakfast, we're going to sort and vaccinate young heifers. Since the messages originate from his smartphone, Gilmer may send them from the floor of the milking parlor or from the cab of his tractor. or from anywhere else on the farm located near Sulligent, Alabama, across the state line from Aberdeen, Mississippi. The messages give followers a snapshot of farming on an everyday basis.
What seems to work best, or what I found has worked best for me to do to keep people's interest and attract people to listen to what I'm saying, is just talk about what we're actually doing on the farm, kind of day in and day out, and just give them kind of an idea of what farming life is and what we do.
Many times, Gilmer will take a picture like this with his smartphone and post it on Twitter. After 2 months with no calves, we're starting to have a few dry cows freshen, he tweeted with the photo. This cow gave birth to a bull today. Will Gilmer has over 2,700 people following him on Twitter, but this popular social media is only one of many ways Gilmer communicates about agriculture from the farm. Of course, he has a Facebook page up and running for the dairy, too. Over 1,800 people have clicked that they like something on the page. But long before Twitter and Facebook, Will Gilmer's very first communication effort was the dairy farm website. He developed and launched it almost 10 years ago, in 2003. Today, it includes an educational tool for children that Will Gilmer calls Adopt-A-Cow. Once you sign up online, an 8x10 photo of the cow you choose is emailed to you, along with a certificate of adoption. A child can then check the website monthly for updates on how the cow's milk production is going and whether it's had a calf. The website also features a photo of the current Milk Mustache Contest winner. That annual contest is always a feature of June Dairy Month. After the website was fine-tuned, Will Gilmer added another social media tool in 2007, the Dairyman's Blog.
It was more or less just a way to have a news feature for our farm. We had a page on our website where I would update about once a month what had been happening, but it wasn't updated enough that people particularly cared to read it. So I thought, well, if I do a blog and do it more often, maybe we'll be able to reach more people, and that worked, and everything else is just kind of spread from there.
The Sunday, June 19th post on the blog was devoted to Father's Day. Will simply titled it, My Dad, a Farmer and a Family Man. Will has been farming with his father, David Gilmer, since graduating from college in 2001. In the summer of 2011, they had 163 cows in the milking herd, the lowest number in quite a while. The 600-acre farm has a total inventory of over 450 Holstein cows, heifers, and calves. Will's father, David Gilmer, is a second-generation dairyman and also a Mississippi State graduate. David doesn't actively use social media himself, but totally supports his son Will's efforts to communicate about agriculture.
Somebody needs to tell our story, because there's plenty of people out there ready to tell a story, but it may not be just exactly how it is.
Will Gilmer added videos to his website in 2009 and began posting them on YouTube as well. His father has appeared with him in at least one segment of the MooTube Minute, as the videos are called. This episode is titled A Typical Day on Gilmer Dairy Farm and has received almost 1,400 views online. Other segments focus on vocabulary. This episode explained the term slurry to viewers. Other editions of the MooTube Minute simply deal with particular events on the farm.
Hi, this is Will Gilmer with the Gilmer Dairy Farm MooTube Minute. Coming to you from our maternity pasture where Big Annie, number 232, has just given birth to a heifer calf about 10 minutes ago.
I've always tried to be informative during them, but the first ones I really tried to be kind of wacky and a little bit out there, because you have to do something different to get people to pay attention to you. And by doing that, I was able to start building a group of people who would subscribe to the videos and watch them. And as that has grown, I've been able to get a little bit more serious and talk about going more in depth about the things we're actually doing. And that's not to say I still don't do a few goofy ones now and then, or sing or something like that.
And I'm proud for Will to be able to kind of use these avenues to get our message out that hey, we're doing things as efficiently as we can. We're trying to take care of the environment. We're taking care of our animals, and are just being good stewards of what we've been given control over.
Will Gilmer was chairman of the American Farm Bureau Federation Young Farmers and Ranchers Committee during 2010. He used that position to encourage other producers to follow his lead in getting the message out about agriculture using social media. He has no doubt that other young farmers around the country are more involved in communication now, and that consumers are picking up on the messages and responding.
We do get a lot of feedback from people that are in agriculture that ask us about some of the things we're doing on the farm. But we're also getting comments from people who live in cities and urban centers who don't have a dairy farm anywhere around them or any kind of agriculture really. So it's a great way for us to connect with those people. You know, the way I look at it, you know, me and my dad, you know, and other farmers in this area have a responsibility to talk to people in our area, in our community, about the things we're doing. But there's, you know, places in this country where there are not farmers available and they need to hear about agriculture too. So we also have that responsibility to talk to them.
From out in the country, social media is enabling dairy farmer Will Gilmer to successfully convey his important message around the nation. From Sulligent, Alabama, I'm Leighton Spann reporting.
And we invite you to go to farmweek.msucares.com for links to all of Will Gilmer's social media sites. He tweeted artists early this morning he was going out to chop ryegrass for his cows to be able to eat this coming summer.
Check him out. Well, we are at the end of Farm Week for this week. On our next show, it almost seems too good to be true.
We'll be telling you about one state where if you have a skill, you're almost guaranteed to find a job. North Dakota's energy explosion has enabled the state to breeze through the recession like it wasn't there.
The Everything Garden Expo in Starkville featured a mixture of art and horticulture.
In Southern Gardening, mailbox gardens. Find out how to make yours beautiful.
For the rest of the Farm Week crew, I'm Artis Ford.
And I'm Leighton Spann. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next week.